Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm out here today to make a repair on the old snowblower. The other day when I was blowing back alongside the horse pasture, something happened and I snapped the chain on it. So I've got to replace the chain now. Here's the original chain that I broke. You can see here on this end, the peg that goes across the link is broken in half. And on this end, this little one of these rollers was splayed out. It was obviously the connector to this other link, so they had just split apart anyhow. And this chain was actually quite worn. It bends considerably if you do this kind of motion with it, which it shouldn't really bend that much. It's just worn. It's probably been on the machine for its entire life, so probably a good thing to replace it. On this particular snowblower, which is called Agro-Trend, that's the make of the snowblower. This is a 6-foot wide snowblower, and Agro-Trend is a company here in Ontario. It's a really nice basic snowblower, this particular model. But anyhow, you'll notice there's a big sprocket here. This is on the roller bar. This actually is the sprocket that the chain will actually drive the roller bar through. And this turns this roller bar, which brings the snow in from the sides as it comes into the box of the snowblower. So this is the main drive unit that powers this bar and brings it into the impeller in the middle here, which is this unit in here. There are two other sprockets on the machine too. There's one just visible here. This is a tensioner sprocket. And I'll show you the other sprocket as well, the drive sprocket. So here's the main drive sprocket in here. You can see it's attached to the axle coming from the PTO. So this bar here goes into the main PTO drive unit. So the chain receives its power directly here from the PTO, and then it would go across here to this tensioner unit, and then out to that main sprocket on the roller bar that I showed initially. Yeah, so there's the tensioner sprocket that the chain rolls over. And when you put the chain on, this is a critical unit because we'll put the chain on with a bit of looseness to begin with, as I understand it, and then we'll adjust this up or down on this little sliding slot here that it's bolted into, so we can move this whole unit up or down to tighten the chain later, and that's how we'll get it snug. So I wasn't sure how easy it was going to be to find replacement chain for this older machine here, but the first place I called, basically after I did a little bit of an internet search, the first local place I called had the chain. And surprisingly, the fellow that worked there even had the exact same snowblower as I've got. So he was very familiar with it just on the phone, and then he was very helpful there. And then when I got to the place, he was even more helpful. He had already printed out a little copy of the manual for the machine, and he talked me sort of through the process of putting the chain on, and he measured it all out carefully, and hopefully we've got enough chain length to connect it together at the end of this process. So what I did to start the chain application process here is put it on the big sprocket. Then I can turn this because it's connected to this impeller here, which I can also turn. So that enabled me to bring the chain in through the box onto the middle sprocket, which is the tensioner sprocket. And then I could put it on the other sprocket, the drive sprocket on the other side as well. And then as I turn this, or as I turn the impeller, that turns the drive sprocket. And as you can see here, you can see it pulls the chain inwards. So I'm dragging the chain inwards by turning the impeller here, and thus the drive shaft. You can see right down here, as I turn the drive shaft, this chain is starting to come through this slot. So watch here. just getting caught up, but I can push it through from this side. It's just the chain is bending. There we go, it's starting to come through. So I basically have the chain threaded through the whole system here, but then I just realized that I've got the chain going on top of the tensioner sprocket here. And I think it actually supposed to go on the bottom, so I'm going to have to bring part of the chain out again and rethread it along the bottom of the tensioner. So got the chain on. It took a little bit of finessing. I had to add a half link here. And then we added the little cotter pin. Didn't actually come with a cotter pin, so I had to fashion my own cotter pin. The half link has its own capping lock here on top, but the chain is on now. Now all I have to do is tension it by pushing down this tensioner on top of the chain. Okay, so this shows the tensioner that I just pushed down in its slot to tighten the chain here. So you can see how this sprocket pushes down on this top chain, and that brings the bottom chain up and taut as well. So that's set and everything's done as far as I know. Not too bad of a process actually once you get the correct length of chain cut and whatnot. Just have to make sure you have enough chain, and ideally not too much chain unless you have ways of cutting it. You can also use extra links from the old chain or just little link additions that you can use. So I used a half link addition here. So hopefully as good as new, or maybe even better than new. Before I use this, we'll actually give it a good coat of oil as well. It is greasy as it comes new out of the store, but it needs some oil. I'll just lower the blower here.